at no stage in your life that you'll ever feel that, oh, now I'm at the top. Because as soon as you feel that, next morning, you get a wake-up call like our teams got recently. What happens with these geniuses is, he's a genius, there is no doubt, but you fear these geniuses. You know, you don't know which turn that they'll take. So I hope he stays, calm, and he should remain the way he is, because otherwise he won't be a genius.
Yeah.
You started getting respect when you came on that Sportstar front page.
You were very popular with girls. How did you handle it?
I don't like when you say were.
हमारे लिए तो they were always your cousins.
When you're young, you got to live like a young man.
Yeah,
when we get grey, then now we got to start living differently.
No, we were jealous because we didn't have such cousins. We have had a wonderful time meeting different sportsmen, administrators, people who are connected with sports in India. And it's my pleasure to bring the curtain down on this fabulous event. And today we have a gentleman who rarely makes an appearance at such events because he loves to work on the field with the teams, not known much to talk about himself or the game. But we are lucky to have Ajay Jadeja. So please welcome him. Thank you. I've known Ajay from the time when he was 13 years old. He had come to play at the National Stadium. And I've done some of his matches when he was playing for Sardar Patel School. So this was a very good inter-school tournament in Delhi. And I think we are meeting in Jaipur for the first time. I don't remember we have ever met before this. Maybe some Ranji game, I don't remember. So Ajay, you have played for Rajasthan, and you've been to Jaipur, of course, we were talking about the place, and your first appearance in our Sportstar Conclave. So what about your initial views?
First of all, thank you for having me here. Good evening. I think we've had a long day. We started with a bright sunny day. It's almost dark now, so I hope everybody's awake and we can enjoy this evening and conclude it, because it's been fabulous. It's been enriching for me to hear the panelists all through the day, the sportsmen, sportswomen, administrators, people who are investing in sport. KPMG there is going to analyze and make the sporting fraternity and the government have a better roadmap towards a sporting country, which I personally feel we are a sporting country because I only meet people around me who are sportsmen. So I think everybody is a sportsman. But thank you for having me here, and I hope we can entertain them and find one more solution, or at least keep them awake.
Yeah.
They almost feels like they've been all forced into. I should be interviewing him because I think he has more knowledge of this sport. He's been watching this game for longer than me, for sure. And when you're playing, you have no clue, honestly. As sportsmen, everybody who's here, we are on the other side. We enjoy the sport, but we actually don't know how it functions, how it runs, what are the problems of, even hosting an event. We keep complaining food isn't good. All day we've heard, and it's a fact. All those things that you heard are reality. People, in olden days, there weren't reservations in trains. There was nothing planned. But that's how life was. I think this generation doesn't understand that. They know everything is on their mobiles. They know what time the flight's going to leave. Or trains, you can book tickets online, which wasn't the case. We had to go to the station and see what will happen. So life has changed. And
we have traveled in buses and trains. So and I'm guilty of not introducing some of the champions we have here. Shagun Chaudhary, she was the first woman shooter to qualify for Olympics. Divya Kriti we're going to hear a lot about Divya. and my good friend Manjusha. She's 11 times badminton champion. So, and today she's handling the administration in Indian Oil. So, still connected with the sport. And Ajay, if you can share your, in short, your journey with the kids of what it has been being a sportsman.
I think I'm blessed, and or any sportsman would, I think, feel that no matter what you've been able to achieve or get to a level, because it's the time that you spend. Uh, all of you here at an institute which is prestigious, and I'm sure you've all brilliant at what you do. But I can't speak for others, but at least for myself, I can say, I wasn't very good at, academics or spending time in class. I didn't enjoy being, restricted in that classroom. And so every school, at least the schools that I went, and I hope the government does that every time they pass a school, that there is a sports field, because most of these schools don't even have sports fields anymore. So we were blessed to have grown up in a time where there was enough space. And I always believed, and I said that it was an easier part of the world. So if you had 1,000 kids in school, all of us want to do well. It's not that anybody doesn't want to do well. 990 of them were competing in those classes to be first in class or get to IIT or get to IIM or wherever. There were only 10, 12, 20 of us who had, the whole 90% of the school, which is the sports ground, competing there. So it was actually an easier world to be competing in. And you are out in the open. So I'm blessed to have had a life where I've enjoyed sport. And the journey is a little different from how education world is looked at. And everybody looks at classes or school as, either you pass or you top or you fail. Whereas in sport, we are blessed. We heard from, most sportsmen that I think at least with cricket and most sport, you lose more often than you win. So it actually teaches you how to, get up every day or get up at, every stage of your life. And at no stage in your life, I'm not talking about career, at no stage in your life that you'll ever feel that, oh, now I'm at the top. Because as soon as you feel that, next morning, you get a wake-up call like our teams got recently. Winning the World Cup, you felt that you're at top of the world, you're the best team, you're the best captain. A week later or 2 weeks later, poor fellow Rohit Sharma, I feel bad for him. Suddenly he's become fat, he doesn't move well. So it teaches you to, get up and carry on, and it's a never-ending journey. And I think that's a blessing that you can have. And that is one thing I feel that all of us have a choice. I think that's a choice that each one of you can make if you want to. It's something that you should do if you enjoy it. Because obviously in a classroom these days, you also have air-conditioned classes around the world. Comforts are better, you get a nice seat. Whereas when you're playing sport, whether it's badminton, whether it's riding, I'm sure it's not easy, it hurts, the body pains. But that pain is actually something that you look forward to. As a sportsman, physical pain is something that you actually enjoy. If you don't enjoy that, don't even go there. So I'm blessed to have had lived this journey. I'm still living, still not retired. So, still not a pensioner with BCCI. And I believe a sportsman never ever stops playing. It's just that physically you get to a stage where you can't do it. So that's another reason why you should take it on earlier in your life, because everything else can be done later. But one thing you can't do is fight aging, fight body or physical ability that you can't do later. So I always suggest, this is a senior class, but if it was a school kids that I was meeting, I would always say that even if you are very good at academics, even if you want to do something else, you can always go back. You can, go back to school. I mean, you finish 12th, you go back and you've done science, you can go back and do commerce. You're bored with commerce, you can go back and do arts. It's only 2 years, 3 years or 5 years in college that people think it's a waste, but it's an education as well. So you have a much rounder education in your life. But if you miss out on playing a sport, you get to 30, 35, 40. We had Manju earlier, who's a champion at 37. She started and won a medal, but that's a rare commodity. Rare people have the opportunity to do that. But otherwise, as young people, I always feel that this is one chance that you have. Enjoy it, take that chance. The other great thing about the sport that I played, and a lot of people may disagree, badminton was my first sport in school when I started playing competitively. First sport was badminton, but the sport that I spend most time is cricket, and I think the playing a sport in a team environment gives you friends for life. You know, you spend time with them, you fail, you succeed, you have good days, you have bad days. And like all of you also, I'm sure when you were in school, your school friends will remain through your life. Imagine this, that is only 6, 8, 10 hours that you spent over 12 years with somebody and they stay with you. Imagine if you spend 10, 12 years with people, not just those 8 hours, but morning to night, traveling together, winning, losing, fighting, and those friends that you make are a bonus that, there's nothing else that gives you that pleasure. I mean, I look at sport this way. And of course, I mean, there is another aspect to sport. And Mike, when he talked about sport in India is looked at as a way to a job versus, a passion. And I think if you enjoy sport as passionately, whatever sport it may be, that will probably be a good journey, because then it won't matter whether you made it to the top or you were second or you were fourth or you were 450th. You would have enjoyed that period of time as much as somebody who's at the top. Everybody likes to be number one. You may have whatever infrastructure, you may have best coaches. Even in this college, I mean, if you have the same facility, only one of you will come first in sport. Everyone else will not come first. Na? But still, you would have all lived through the same journey.
So how do you deal with failures? Do you think you have failed at some point, and how did you sort of overcome it?
Oh, I think you fail every day. I mean, you fail at every stage of your life. I mean, whether it was at school, whether it's later. And like I said, failure is something that a sports person probably doesn't understand. When you're playing sport, you don't understand. Otherwise, you'd stop playing. In under 15 or when you're playing at school, every game nobody scores runs. No tennis player has won. Somebody like Pete Sampras has also lost more games than he's won. Or I'm not sure about numbers, and data these days will correct me, but most sportsmen lose more often than they win, even if they're world number ones. So that is a training. And I think that is one aspect that's been totally missed out in everybody who talks about why sport should be part of people's life, is the education system, which is very important, and I've not had the privilege and the advantage of doing well there. But the sporting system actually teaches you more life than your education system, because in the education system there's a failure and there's a pass, whereas with sporting system there's never a failure. Like our teams lost 3-0, people outside will get excited, isko nikal do, but they'll carry on, they'll come back, they'll go to Australia, and I hope they'll do well. So I failed at every stage of my life, I think.
Dravid recently said that cricket, he was talking about cricket, it's more about failures than success. So would you agree with that?
I think, like I said, because Tendulkar, our greatest, the period that I played in, I was blessed to have played in a time where Tendulkar was there, Kapil Dev was there. Tendulkar has scored 100 hundreds for India, but he's played 700 innings. So he's actually failed 6 times if you just go by 100 as a success rate. So it will be always the case with sportsmen, any sport. I don't know about equestrian, how it is. Do you win all your tournaments? Or everybody who comes there to compete don't win. But there's this saying that, people make up. So at Halar, we have this saying, either you win or you learn. You never lose.
Yeah. And you talked about India's failure. So ahead of the series in Australia, I would like to ask a question which is interesting, which is going to be very important in times to come. What kind of performance do you expect from them? Because here they failed on a pitch where the ball was seaming, and then when it was turning, also they failed. So, and Australia will obviously be different pitches. So, how do you look at this as a forthcoming series?
I think we'll do well. We may not do as well as to make it to the World Championship that they were looking at, because you need 4 wins out of 5. that may be tough, but I still feel that we should come back as winning this this series, whether it's 2-1 or 1-2 or whatever it may be. I think we are a better side. The conditions, as you mentioned, it won't seem as much. I mean, it will seem, but not as much as it did the other day here. And it certainly won't spin. So, if that is something that has troubled our players, when they go there, those are conditions that they should do well.
Yeah, but what kind of challenge do you expect there will be? Because although we won the last two series, Australians are saying they are waiting for us to come.
You know Australians better than me. They always have something to say, and I think that's one of their strengths. It's always been one of their strengths that they play with your minds. And I think our team now, or as times have moved on, I think our cricket has also changed. Earlier, we would go to Australia once in 8 years, 9 years. So in a side of 15 people, there would have been 2 or 3 who would have ever been to those conditions, who would ever traveled there. Now you have emerging teams going every 2-3 years. You go to Australia. So our team, I feel, is well equipped, and it is always as sportsman. I think when you have nothing to lose, that's when a sportsman is really dangerous. Because if you lost 3-0 here, going there, actually you've got nothing to lose. You've got everything to gain, and it should make it easier for them because there is enough pressure when you play for India, and when it falls on you, and if the team starts taking it, you saw what happened. I mean, not just this time, but it happens over a period of time. So I've always feel that the Indian side is always better off when they go as underdogs. Or at the moment, I don't think they are underdogs. For me, they are a better side. But they actually have nothing more to lose. What else can they lose? They've lost 3-0 to New Zealand at home, which in history they've lost 2 games. So they're in actually a good place. And Australia will, I hope I'm right in this case. Normally I'm wrong, but this case I hope I'm right, and they turned it around.
And I've always been told that cricket is a mind game. Most sports are. Like Shagun can tell us the importance of controlling her breath when she's about at the point of shooting, and how Divya controls the horse, right? And Manju was known to hit shots very precisely. So is it all about game, or some skill factor is also there?
It is, of course, most sports are first physical. Of course, you got to be physically good enough. But when you get to that level, the difference is that it is in the mind. Whether you can come back, do you give up or not? So it is a mental sport. There's no doubt. You train hard. People think you train for your muscles only and strength, but actually when you train is when you can control your breath as well. I mean, when I was fitter, or I could, when I'm talking as well, I would be more in control. I'd have more. I won't be out of breath. So physical training actually trains you, to control your breath. It controls your mind because you're not enjoying it. It's hurting you, but you still want to carry on. So you train in any form of training that you're having. Actually, you're training your mind, and it is the mind. A lot of players have great skills, great physical ability, but somehow things don't work. So it has to be mental. And then look at Bumrah. I think is a great example. Everybody in the world looks at his action. Now he's succeeded, so everybody says, oh, something good. But imagine the mental strength that man must have had. You must have been 16, 15, playing. There would have been coaches telling him, you don't have a right action. But he had the belief, he had the mental strength to carry on doing what he did. And he developed the skills that he needed to. I'm sure he worked as hard on his physical ability as well. But just to be in a system where it is, the exposure is so much now with, media, where I'm included as well, where everything is diagnosed and questioned at a detailed level, to have carried on with that kind of action it clearly tells me, now he's successful, so it's easy to say. But if it wasn't for his self-belief and his mental ability, I don't think he would have been what he is at the moment. So I think mental ability is probably the key. And, Rahul Dravid that you mentioned, is a prime example. Lakshman and Rahul Dravid, both great friends, both playing that partnership. But through their careers, if you had asked, even when they were growing up, everybody would have said, Lakshman is the player, yaar. you know. But Rahul has that ability that is a little more than Lakshman. Not saying Lakshman's any less than Rahul, but Rahul would probably put in a little more than VVS mentally, not physically. They would all work as hard as they would, but I think that is why he succeeded way ahead of a lot of people. Dada is another one in that same batch. More graceful, more timing, everything that he had. But Rahul left everybody behind.
And then what about your good friend Viru?
Again, mental ability. Viru, the way he played, who would have thought, he wouldn't have been allowed in a lot of clubs in those days because striking wasn't there. But that was his ability. He carried on. He believed in his game. He didn't doubt himself. He backed himself. And that's why he succeeded more than people around him.
What about recovery skills? I mean, you played a bad shot, right? And then you're thinking about that bad shot. Or maybe say shooter has had a one bad shot. And how does he or she recover from that one moment which can kind of destroy the next 15 minutes or the next half an hour of that contest?
I won't know about shooting but
any sport.
But I think that's where that whole mental ability that I was talking about, comes into play. So you miss something. So whether it's a shot or a jump or a smash or a ball you bowled down the leg or a bad shot you played and you have the chance to be there. You can look at it and say, if you go into the spiral of I'm not playing well or I'm got wrong, everything's gone wrong, then it takes you down in that way. But positive people would probably look at that and say, oh, what did I miss out that I missed that shot or I bowled that ball? Why did it go there? And you can actually enrich yourself and get better for the next ball or next shot or next game. So again, it's that mind, that result is not what decides whether you're good enough or not. You decide whether you're good enough or not. I think that is the key. So when you have doubts in your mind and you miss something, that's why they say you practice so much that even when things are going wrong, you believe that it will come right because you've worked so hard at it. I'm sure in classes when they sit, there must be somebody like me who turns up last minute for exams and sees a question and says, oh, mar gaya, ye kahan se aa gaya? But people who worked hard all through the year, look at that question and say, ye kahan se aa gaya? And then they'll think, maybe how do I find it? They'll find a way to answer that as well. So that is the mindset of somebody who believes that, I will find a solution. What has gone anyway, and learn from what went wrong.
Recently, our captain misread the pitch, like we were talking last night about how do you read a pitch or how do you read the playing conditions? Is it not important and part of your growing up exercise? Did you not learn to roll pitches at the National Stadium?
Yeah, I think we were a blessed generation, or at least in the past, that you, in your school, when there was a pitch being made, you worked on it, you knew exactly what's gone underneath that soil. You put, whether you put bricks there or you put stone there, so you would know moisture. Plus, I think the biggest difference that I feel now and then was too many coaches. Too many coaches at younger age, at under 15, district, state, you have 4 or 5 coaches that go with you, one batting coach, one bowling coach, one fielding coach, do sifarshi coach, so they all have to do their work. So where does a 14-year-old who's captain of a school team go to the ground and look at a pitch and make a decision? Because only when you make decisions, you realize whether you are getting it right or you are getting it wrong. So every time you get it wrong, like you mentioned the captain at this time, when you get it wrong, then you understand why you got it wrong. So next time you get better. Now I think a 15-year-old or a 20-year-old now, with the new policy and the coaching staff that travels with the team, has never made a decision. He's been told, you should bat, this is the field you should keep, you should bowl to X person here, Y person there. So where is he developing himself? So I think that has taken away the ability, or not totally taken away, but from majority of people, because you've not made so many decisions on the pitch, looking at the conditions, deciding. I remember I mean, Leander Paes, one of our finest sportsmen from tennis, and happened to meet him at a party, and it was very late. I think both of us are somebody who enjoy the evening. And having this conversation, and I happened to ask him, and I said, why is it that we win Wimbledon, junior Wimbledon, so often, and a lot of us have not gone forward? Because he was talking about cricket, and so it stayed in my mind. He said the difference was that when I went as a kid with an Indian squad somewhere, and Jim Courier was on the other side, he said my coach would be telling me, "Isko drop maar, isko idhar phank de, isko idhar dal de." He was only teaching him how to win the game. Whereas the coach on the other side was only telling him to get on top of the ball and hit it, get on top of the ball and hit it. That coach was teaching them to get better at their skill and not how to win this game. So it is a short-term look that a lot of coaches can take, and they have to, and I don't blame them, because their jobs are online. Because we judge coaches by their performance. Poor fellow Gautam Gambhir was the best a couple of months ago, and suddenly he's the worst. Yeah. Because the results have gone, and the result was good, so he was the best. Results have gone the other way, so he's become the worst. So if that is the teachers and coaches, then as human beings, the coach is also a human, and the teacher is also there. How do you expect them to come and teach a child to grow or to get better and to take it forward? So I think that is also a reason why decision making doesn't happen, because we are taught very early in life, just to, in sport especially, कि भाई जो जीतने का तरीका ढूंढो. I think वो तो है ही, वो अपने आप time से आएगा. But when a teacher is teaching that only and not teaching skill and not teaching what is the fundamental of the game or a sport, then it's a short lived. Whereas somebody like Rahul is a great example. I keep going back to him because he is the best example. That somebody who was always working on his game, trying to get better and better and better, till the last day he was playing. And he's doing the same thing. He's done the same thing with the team. It was never about the result. He was, trying to inculcate some virtues of, the game or life into players, which a lot of people feel, "Arey yaar, ye to jeet nahi rahe." Yeah, haar gaye. But eventually that's something that a teacher should be teaching.
A question before I throw it to the audience. Where is international cricket heading now? Has it become more aggressive? And I feel sometimes it's become very monotonous. And what state is Indian cricket in?
I think international cricket is changing for sure, because international cricket that we knew or we watched was what? Australia, England, Pakistan, India, Sri Lanka, 7, 8 teams. Then we had, in 92, you had South Africa join that gang, and you saw how the game changed then, because they brought in a whole new aspect which the rest of the world hadn't seen. Now we see, there are many more countries that are coming into playing this sport. And so it is, changing a lot more, lot faster than it used to. Plus, the other thing that is happening with international cricket is that people coaching or spending time with other teams are sharing. Like we had first Australian, Bobby Simpson came to India in 98, 99 in our times. Greg Chappell then came. So we got to know what Australians think. Like that Indians are going out. Pakistanis are, in England. English players, England has today a New Zealand coach. So I think that is why I think the sport is moving much faster, because you already have, each one has their style of play. But because this wasn't the case earlier. Everybody just played for their country. If you went to another country and coached, it was always looked down upon, which has also changed. So I think that is one reason why cricket is evolving or moving much faster. And of course, the shorter format of the game. Nobody's got time for 5 days. So the whole game has changed, and it is not the game that you certainly enjoyed as much as, you enjoy this one as well, but we grew up in a different environment where, patience, perseverance were virtues of this game, whereas patience is something that is not required, because, if you've got that, then you're already in the next season. It's about quick 3.5 hours, the game is over, we are back home. It's not played during the day, it's played during the night. So a lot of changes have happened, and that's why I think the whole game is changing.
I certainly don't enjoy this format. And that's why I think Ion never makes me write about the T20 format. Never. If there's something which a throwback to
But
5 days cricket or throwback to 80s, 90s, then he comes to me. Otherwise, he's got all these youngsters who love T20 brand.
because if the next generation always drives the world, that's what we need to understand. And I think these kids sitting here will decide how the world runs. But you must get him to write, because unless you have critics of something, you'll never get better. So you must write, and we must watch a T20 game together.
Please recommend. Uh, yeah, done. Thank you. And questions from, please.
Who's got time to play 5 days?
If we were to pick you today for 5 days,
I'm free. I have no problems. But I'm not talking about this generation.
Ajay, we'd like to know a little bit about your experience with the Afghanistan team.
Yeah.
Whatever we've seen of them in television or whatever, lots of talent. Not always great results, but lots of talent. So, what was your experience? Do you think there are seeds in them to be world beaters, in spite of coming from tough country, etc.? They still seem to be having that, a great attitude on the field. That's what one gets to see. What has been your experience coaching Afghanistan?
I think I was privileged to have spent time with them, and especially at that particular time, because they're a team. If you really look at them, they started at grade 7 in ICC ranking about 14 years ago. There is no other team that has moved up the ladder that quickly, because it's like how Hong Kong or Singapore, or where infrastructure isn't there, and we've been talking about infrastructure all day here. There is no infrastructure there either. But they, because of the attitude that you talked about, the belief that they have in themselves, the aspiration that they have, it is not just a sport. I mean, how to explain? I think they are a side. Imagine when a couple of years ago, or 10 years ago, if you said word Afghanistan, what is the face that came to your mind?
Kabuli wala.
Fair enough. That was 40 years ago. Say 20 years ago. It was a whole different. Now when you say Afghanistan, you see these smiling faces. You see these boys playing, enjoying their sport. They're nice. You talk of nice people, and the nicest people in the IPL, and you can ask, you have enough young journalists who go around. So whether it's Rashid Khan or whether it's Nabi, they've actually been able to convince the world. I'm not even going into sport at the moment. I'm saying that these are good human beings. They're nice people. They're people who can gel with anybody. They can live with anybody. So they've transformed all that. With cricket, they were already at that stage where they were world beaters. I think they were world beaters. And at the start of that World Cup, somebody asked me, when will they become a big team? I said, for me, they are a big team. Only when they beat them, you'll say, yeah, they are a big team. So now within a year, now you see where they are. They're beating everybody. Bangladesh, we played a month ago, and we beat them barely. And there was a game a couple of days ago where they beat them by 80 runs or something. So they've taken that leap from when they got closer to winning a game. It's always the case with sportsman people there's a fear of winning. I think it's bigger than fear of losing. When you get closer to that win, you start doubting or whatever. That changed for them, and from there on, I think they are a world beating side at the moment. And I was just blessed to be around there when we all enjoyed that moment or enjoyed that trip, 145 days. It is probably, for me, one of the best periods of my life, because at age 50 plus, where do you find this excitement? When you're 20 and 25, 30, you play sport, you have some excitement. But to be part of a team that was, evolving, growing from being challengers to being the champions, and I don't think it'll take long before they will be champions. The emerging trophy has been won by them lately. There was India, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, all these teams which have been around for years. So they've become champions there. And once a champion team tastes success and they understand what winning is, and they definitely know how to win. I think they know how to win because daily lives of theirs, they have won on a daily basis. It's a habit. When they left home, they didn't know whether they'll come back. So when they came back, they believed that. So now that they've started winning on a cricket field, I'm a big fan of theirs. I was always a fan. That's how I ended up being there. And I'm grateful to the players who thought that, you know, if I came there and I spent time with them, we'll have a good run or have a good time with them. So there was no board, there was no contract, there was nothing. It was just one senior player who I had happened to know and had, you know, talked and said, "Okay, can you come and join me?" So next day I was at Cuttack with them and had that great journey. So for me it was the best 45 days that I think I can remember that I've had, because when you can't play physically, you play mentally with, you know, other kids. Ask any coach, they'll say that when their player is playing well, that's when they get pleasure. So for me, it was that pleasure that I got.
Yeah.
I want to ask you, what does Waqar Younis tell you when you meet him these days? Does he still remember the 1996 knock, or do you remind him?
No, it's a very long story. It started in 1988, 88, 89, where we went to Pakistan to play under 19 test matches, and he was part of the under 19 team in Pakistan, and I was representing India. We played 4 test matches, many one days, side games. So we actually are great friends. We are great friends because not only there, but when in our times, there was no IPL, so we would go to England in the summer and play league cricket. And he was playing more county cricket because he was a superior player. So we are great friends. And all that he says is, you know, because he's got me out more often than I've smashed him. So he said, you know, we have a saying in North India at least, "So sonar ki, ek lohar ki." So that is what happened to him that day, and it's just a blessing. You have some good days, and it happened to be on a perfect platform. We hadn't, you know, beaten them very often, but the most pleasurable thing on that day was to make sure that Javed Miyadad never came back on the ground. Because he was the one that we grew up with, that because as long as he was there, from 86 to 96 was a period where it was, so that was his last game. He was run out. He was run out by me, and so for me, that game, from my memory, is that I made sure that he never came back against us. And Waqar is a great friend, and we still spend some time whenever we get.
Ajay, there was a time when India was losing to Pakistan so much that at one point Moin Khan told you some exhibition match, "Aaj bhi marenge to aapko."
होता है टाइम, आई मीन यही तो फर्क है. अब 20 साल से हम लोग मार रहे हैं, बट हमारे में से कोई ऐसा बोलता नहीं है.
Yeah.
That's the difference.
Yeah. And of course,
I don't know why he's clapping. Did you get what I said?
Last question from me. Of course, you said getting Miyandad out. And what was your sweetest memory? Your first game for your state, your country, or maybe your test debut? Javed Miyandad, yes. I mean, he's history now.
Sweetest, you know, I think, in fact, today is the day because, like all of us, I have self-doubts, and I'm no different from anyone. So you always have dream of playing this sport, you want to play for India, and if you're a batsman, you feel good when you get 100. You know, unless you get 100, like I said, Tendulkar failed so many times, but he didn't actually, he got 80s and 70s. So the first time I scored a 100 for India against West Indies, and in those days West Indies was a different side. So I think that moment is something that gave you an assurance or made you believe, even if I myself had doubts, and I probably had doubts longer than that, but at least on that day you felt that, okay, you know, this is what you've been dreaming of, this is what you wanted to do. It would probably be like some, you know, some tournament or some event or Olympics, how people go and, you know, get a medal. So that kind of a feeling, yes, representing is, first time playing for India or first time getting picked, always feels good. But there's still journey. I mean, getting picked is the start, and the journey begins there. And so I think the first step that I felt happy and good about was that day when in Kathak. I remember very clearly because there are some moments you never forget. Like I never forget getting bowled to Ronnie Irani, and that was my worst day. And I said, if you can't play Ronnie Irani, then you can't play Test cricket. So that day, I, in my mind, had closed the chapter of Test cricket. But with one-day cricket, I think that day at Kathak is a memory that has stayed with me.
And
30 years from today, actually.
Yeah, and I always wanted to ask you, is Rishabh Pant the most freakish kind of a cricketer? I mean, you can't really read him. He's very different. He can change the game on his own in all the three formats. So would you say he's some talent who is probably going to be one of the greatest Indian cricketers ever in times to come?
No, he is freakish, he is brilliant, and he is, as long as he's playing, he'll be number one. My only worry with him is like his driving, and is that what happens with these geniuses is he's a genius, there is no doubt, but you fear these geniuses, you don't know which turn that they'll take. So I hope he stays calm, and he should remain the way he is, because otherwise he won't be a genius.
Yeah.
So it is a very fine line, even as a coach, when you're working with someone, how do you try and tame a genius, or how do you try and tell him right or wrong? Because if he was doing right things, he won't be a genius. So you got to enjoy them, and I don't know how long it will last, but as long as he lasts, he will be the best player for the side. Always, because as soon as you start taming them, you take away the brilliance of theirs. So it's a double-edged sword. You got to, live with it. You got to enjoy him. I just hope we see him for another 10 years, because he'll give us great memories.
And this is a Sportstar event, your memories of the magazine, because the other day you were telling us so many things about the magazine. If you can share with the audience here how important it was.
I don't know this generation whether they read magazines or they know what a sports magazine is. But to put it in context for all of you would be what? What is the biggest? No, not Insta and all. You can't compare it to Insta. Say NIT or IIM, or what is the biggest achievement that any of you students can achieve? The number one, in a week. So for us, growing up, if you came on the front page of Sportstar, it was like that. Because you were number one hit of the week or the month or that period. So Sportstar was like IIT, topper of that year, or 12th ka topper of that year. So that to me, I think Sportstar is, and I think all sportsmen who are my age would probably see that. And if you came on the center page, then all the girls had that center page in their house. So it wasn't just passing. It was, it was like an achievement in life. That 100 that I talked is one thing, but yes, Sportstar, front page, story on you, center page. If you had friends like him, he would make a nice story for you also. So Sportstar is like a certificate that you got. I don't know how these children look at it, but at least for our generation, that was once what you call viral. What is viral these days was if you had to go in that direction. But I think it had much more authority, much more standard, much more respect. You started getting respect when you came on that Sportstar front page story. So I want to actually find the old Sportstar so I can show it to my children and say, here, perfect. So, and I want to thank all of you, who are now running it and people like that, because for us, sportsmen or people who enjoy reading about sport as well, if it wasn't for Sportstar, I think a lot of sport would have been ignored. People would have not got to know about things that have happened in sport. So when we're playing, we don't understand these things, how important the whole infrastructure of sport is. And I think Sportstar and their team over the years have done a fabulous job. Photographer here, I remember Krishnan as a personal friend. There's, whether it's photographers, whether it's people writing. I met somebody who was a revenue person, I think very important, because if that's not functioning, then it wouldn't have lasted this long. So the entire team at, Sportstar, I thank you personally, and I'm sure a lot of friends who played with me have the same feeling, that Sportstar to us always meant that if you were acknowledged by Sportstar, that gave you satisfaction, you slept well, and you felt that all the years that you've spent on a cricket ground have been acknowledged by all of you. I won't single out anyone here, but him especially, because from school days he's been there and looked after us, told the stories that we made on the cricket ground. He had his perspective, everyone else theirs. So, because sport is nothing without a story. If it's just a scoreline, then life would be boring and the sport would be boring. The thing about sport is that there is always a story. And there's a story about a winner and a story about a learner. And I probably fall on that side more often than a winner.
You were very popular with girls. How did you handle it?
I don't like when you say were.
हमारे लिए तो they were always your cousins. We were told उसके cousin है, but 100 cousins in a match.
So luckily we had such senior journalists who didn't write those stories. Otherwise things would have been different. When you're young, you got to live like a young man.
Yeah,
when we get grey, then now we got to start living differently.
No, we were jealous because we didn't have such cousins. Any questions from the audience, kids? Yeah.
Ajay, no, it's not a KPMG question. Ajay, you mentioned about mental strength actually, and is it something that people already have, or you have seen people developing it over time? So just to get a perspective on that.
Actually, I'm no one to qualified enough to say that, but I think something that you have, and it does come when you play sport. I think it comes with the way of life. I mean, if you've had a tougher life, if you had to struggle for something, you've achieved many things that you thought were not achievable even before you get to sport. So I thought most of them had that, who had that sort of a upbringing or tough times and things that they had come up with. So they had that much more than somebody who was from the blessed side. But it is something that, like everything else, you can improve on it. But a 100cc bike can only go to a certain, somebody who is blessed to have a 500cc bike can enhance that a little further. So it's something that you're born with, it's something that you can, better it. It's a mix of both. So I've seen very strong people mentally that I've grown up with in sport, and suddenly they went, down as well. So I've seen both sides. So not really qualified to pinpoint on that, but it is certainly something that can get better.
Jagon or Divya, would you like to have any question?
So how does it feel, Ajay, to finally not be playing on the field and be on the other side as a spectator? Because I know I'm heading that way soon, so I just want to be prepared for it.
It is the second best, no doubt. The toughest or the thing is that we need to understand it's not me. Because when we are playing or when we are doing it ourselves, it's only how we think, how our body feels, how our technique is, or what we can do. Whereas when you are on the other side and you start coaching, I think the biggest thing is that we actually don't know what's in that person's mind. And as you've been sportsman, we always fight the world and they never know how we think and like that. So that next generation that's coming, I'm sure they must be also like that. So the toughest part is to find a relationship. If they open up to you, then it's pleasure, because then you are playing your mind with their mind, but their body. So that is the pleasure that you can get out of being on this side of the ground. but it's really tough because there are moments that you want to go out there and enjoy that. You know what it feels like in the middle. So, but life is tough. We can't have it all the time. But this is the best, second best that we can have. Better than sitting in some office and doing any other work. Best is to be around the same sport that we were blessed to have spent time in.
Students, we have brought him here to meet you. So, if you can ask him questions, please.
They're asking when can we close this session.
No, no.
Said 5:30. You are not disciplined.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
My question is, what advice would you give to young cricketers navigating this fast changing cricket environment, and what they should focus to get success?
I think the question that you asked probably is important not just with cricket but with life as well, because the world is also changing so fast that what courses you are doing may not exist in 5 years' time. So if you prepare better for your in education, in sport as well, if your foundation is good, you will be able to navigate wherever the sport is going. So if you're preparing in just one way, then you may get stuck because if the game changes. A good example is who should name some solid players. They were doing the right thing according to the game, but now they've all been left behind. So there is no right or wrong, and sport will move faster than everything else in the world, because sport is, according to me, is probably shows you where the society is heading next. Will show you that. So to navigate through that, stick to the fundamentals, try and get better at every aspect that you can in life, in sport, physical, mental, skill, have more friends. The more you learn, you will be better equipped to find success. And don't look at success as only as a number or a level or whatever. Success, because no matter how hard you work or anybody works, there'll only be 11 people playing for India at one time. So what about the others? So success should be that the years that you spend playing any sport that you do is the success, is the time that you've spent. So make friends, spread happiness, spread joy. That I think is probably a more successful thing that will happen, because for anybody to feel that if I do this, then I will make it to the top. And the best example is, I'm sure there are few parents here. No parent will put more effort than their own children. No parent has been able to make their son or a daughters not have come many, but except for Lala Amarnath, probably had a couple of his sons who did exceptionally well. But hundreds of parents have tried to give their children advice, and none of them have gone on to get the success that you are looking at. But some of them have lived that life of cricket and are very blessed, and those are successful. So my advice is that only that, live this life of cricket. It will give you everything in life.
One last question from a student.
Good evening, sir. Sir, in 1996, the match quarter-final World Cup against Pakistan, you are one of the most memorable inning in such pressure. How you handle that pressure? Like I am right now asking this question, I am feeling pressure. So in that match, how you handle that
I'm
pressure?
feeling? Okay.
How you deal with that type of pressure, in that intense matches?
Come this side. What year are you born?
2003.
So that is why you were getting pressure. It must be a question that came from someone. So when you start doing things that somebody else wants you to do, you'll feel pressure. If it is something that you want to do, you'll enjoy it.
No, sir. This question I want to do, but still in crowd I am feeling pressurized. Like how?
No, I think I look at each of those moments that you're talking about as opportunity, because that is what you want to do. If you want to play, if you want to be in a place where everything depends on you, or this is the most important moment, that's what you want to do. So I think the question, somebody must have asked you to ask this question. That's why you felt pressure.
It's like everyone is expecting something from like your inning from this QC?
But that is when everybody is expecting. Don't worry about other people's expectation. Do you worry about what mommy says? Then she gave you life. You don't worry about her. You worry about these friends. They will go away. They'll find you'll run away with your girlfriend. Keep smiling. Keep smiling. Don't worry about failing. That's the problem. Failing is a problem.
Thank you, Ajay. Thank you for giving us your precious time. And what I liked most was that his session was in the evening, and he pestered me to come and be part of the audience in the first half. So he was here as just all of you sitting, and then now he's turned up as the man on the stage.
Thank you. Once again, I mean, I started with thanking everybody, but really thank you for having me here, because it was enriching to hear everyone today. There are different perspectives of this sport that unless you hear them, unless you see them, I would never know. I'm only on one side, so it just makes me a little better than I was this morning. So thank you, Sportstar, and special thanks to him, because it's been a long journey, and you've always looked after us, and thank you for having me here today.
Now you look after me.
What a lovely session to bring the curtains down on an illuminating day of conversations about sports in Rajasthan. Thank you, Mr. Jadeja, for joining us today. I request Mr. Vijay Lokapally, Dr. Suresh Chandra Padi, Vice Chancellor, Poonima University, and Rahul Singhi, Director, Poonima University, to honor our esteemed guest with a token of our appreciation.
Sorry, I missed out on thanking you, sir. And thank you for having a discussion on sport at least, because if the discussion's happening, I'm sure the sports will also happen here. And I wish you all the best. Thank you.
Here is something which will make Ajay Jadeja very happy. And what you said, about the magazine. So I'm going to present you one on behalf of Ion and everyone here.